JJK chapter 244 spoilers are here, and after 5 hilarious chapters, we are seeing Shinjuku Showdown Part 16, third decisive battle against Sukuna. Chapter starts with Yuji and Higuruma arriving to face Sukuna. About facing Sukuna, Kusakabe says they need to choose who's gonna fight and who would not. Kashimo lashes at them saying it's an all-out war, so everyone should jump in it. Then Kusakabe says Miwa can't fight due to a binding vow she made in Shibuya that she will never swing her sword. At the end of the Shibuya incident arc, when everyone was fighting against Kenjaku, Miwa decided to give her all in one attack, with a binding vow that she will never swing her katana. However, Kenjaku destroyed her katana with his bare hands and used maximum Uzumaki at point-blank range. Kusakabe, Utahime, and Momo saved Miwa from Kenjaku's attack. Then the sorcerers having a meeting to finalize their plans. About Kenjaku, they plan to make him let his guard down and finish off with Yuta, but they will proceed with this plan only if Gojo loses. Yuta is expected to come back right away after dealing with Kenjaku. Kusakabe says those who can use reverse curse technique, those who want to die already or okay to die will join the battle. Others will stay as support. Kamo is in the meeting too. He makes his apology and says he can't partake in this mission because he can't be of any help and he wants to watch over his family as much as possible. So he is taking his family and leaving the country. Yuji tried to console Kamo because he said he is not of much help. Yuji says, I can learn a lot of things from senpai, so you are helping me a lot because Choso sucks at teaching. Then Kamo says, I see. Kashimo battered in between. He says, do you seriously think I will lose? I'm getting pissed. Then Hakari says, it's just an assumption. We all appreciate that you gave up your spot for Gojo. Then Kashimo says, I'm not satisfied yet. Higuruma says he will go after Kashimo. He will use his curse technique to confiscate Sukuna's curse technique. He adds that if he gives Sukuna a death penalty, then he can fight using Executioner's sword. Kusakabe asks if Higuruma can confiscate and lay a death penalty on Sukuna for sure. Yuji says it depends on which charge will judgment use, which Higuruma can choose. Yuji says Sukuna had switched 3 times so far and killed many people whenever he did switch. Then Higuruma says Sukuna's crime. In Itadori's high school, Sukuna harmed Yuji, attempted murder on Gojo. In the juvenile home, murdered Itadori, attempted murder on Fushiguro Megumi. In Shibuya, murdered 2 cursed users, high school girls, attempted murder on several citizens, murdered a cursed user with a side tail, committed arson. Higuruma further says after taking over Megumi's body, Sukuna could be charged with harming Megumi, complete murder, stealing a dead body. All those depend on the situation Megumi is in. Then Higuruma says questioning Sukuna's crime on the harm his fingers has caused is hard. Then Higuruma's summary on sentencing price. For first murder, serving prison for 10 to 15 years. For 2 murders, life sentence or death penalty. For 3 murders or more, death penalty. Then Kusakabe says if it's a normal judgment, then adding up all the crimes Sukuna committed, he will get death penalty for sure. But Higuruma's curse technique, the judgment picks up 1 crime at a time and charges penalty 1 at a time. Then Kusakabe says, but the problem is the smaller crimes swallowed up by the huge crimes committed. Then Kusakabe further says, for example, if you stab a person, you will get charged for harming them or attempted murder, but at the same time, it includes the damages to personal property. Then Higuruma says there is a possibility that the judgment will look at Sukuna's mass murder for a perspective of crime like property damage and trespassing. Higuruma further says if that's happened, getting a death penalty will be hard. Then Yuji says judgment picked up my crimes of doing pachinko, so it's completely possible. Then Higuruma says exactly, it's also possible that Sukuna's punishment will be Itadori's light punishment when Sukuna took over his body. Then Higuruma further says another problem is his crimes from 1000 years ago. Then Miwa says does not that touch on a statute of limitation though? Higuruma says the modern law was created during the Meiji era, so in the modern age there should be a statute of limitation. Then Yuji says so it should touch the statute of limitation. Then Higuruma says the code for criminal procedure was modified in 2010 and there is no statute of limitation on murder anymore. Then Yuji says so it wouldn't touch on the statute of limitation anymore. Then Higuruma says no, murders before 1985 have the statute of limitation placed on them. Then Yuji says so it should touch on the statute of limitation. Higuruma says but in the Han era there is not statute of limitation placed the legal system elderly care laws. Then again Yuji says so it shouldn't touch on the statute of limitation. Higuruma says the modern law might not work on pre-incarnated Sukuna. Judgment is a Shikigami equipped in his curse technique. So if Higuruma thinks it's possible, the judgment will probably think the same. But Higuruma says he does not know which curse technique of Sukuna will be confiscated, the 10 Shadows technique or his domain expansion, Malevolent Shrine. Yuji suddenly says says there might be a way which will guarantee Sukuna a death penalty. Then Mei says she managed to distract Sukuna for a bit. Now everything is up to Higuruma. Back to the fight. We see Mei's crow nearing Sukuna, but they get destroyed immediately. Mei, who was looking at it from afar away, realizes that her crows won't work on likes of Gojo, Kenjaku and Sukuna. Then Higuruma's huge hammer destroys Sukuna's stance and Yuji rushes the debris into small pieces and sends them flying towards Sukuna, and Higuruma manages to bind Sukuna's weapon. Yuji lands a heavy punch and Sukuna feels his entire body shaking for a moment and wonders what that was. Then finally Higuruma opens his domain, deadly sentencing against Sukuna. Yuji tells Higuruma that they can use the trial from the time they both fought and use it against Sukuna. They can add Sukuna as a co-defendant of mass murder in Shibuya and sentence Sukuna. Higuruma begins the trial against Yuji and Sukuna. Judgment says Yuji is suspected of mass murder in Shibuya, but Higuruma defends Yuji by saying Yuji didn't kill anyone. His confession was due to sense of responsibility, but the true criminal is, and with that the chapters end and there will be a break next week. So Higuruma probably wants to say Sukuna is the true criminal, which we probably see in the next chapter. So that's all for today's video. If you enjoyed it, then make sure to subscribe to the channel and watch these videos to enjoy more.